By all accounts, JoAnn Nichols was a beloved first-grade teacher when she disappeared in 1985. She was found 28 years later inside a wall down in the basement of her own home. Let's take a look at what happened to JoAnn Nichols. JoAnn was a school teacher when she met her future husband, Jim Nichols. Jim planned to become a teacher and had joined the Future Teachers of America. The two married in Shreveport, Louisiana, and then moved to Mississippi. There, Jim sold insurance. The couple had a son named James, but they called him Ticker, T-I-C-K-E-R. I wonder why. Maybe he was like a little bomb, always ticking inside, and you never knew what he was going to do next. But that's just a guess. Jim later got a job with IBM, which moved the family all the way to Poughkeepsie, New York. JoAnn got a job teaching first grade. She called her students Sugar, and they got the red carpet treatment every morning. As the students walked into the classroom to begin the day, they walked on crimson carpet. JoAnn's teacher's aide at the time described JoAnn as a very sweet Southern lady. While everyone in the neighborhood was getting to know JoAnn as the new sweet, lovely, gentle, and religious elementary teacher, Jim was giving their new neighbors the creeps. He was described as an unemotional hoarder and a loner. One neighbor said Jim introduced himself by simply walking into their home without knocking. Granted, their door was open, but still they had never even seen this stranger who was suddenly standing in their house. One neighbor said that when they saw Jim, he would just stare at them and not say hello. One time, a neighbor asked Jim to help her with an injured squirrel. There were children in her yard, and as you can imagine, they were all concerned about the squirrel. I guess Jim had just gotten home from work because he still had his suit jacket on. Jim grabbed a hatchet and slaughtered the squirrel in front of the children. Another time, a female neighbor was painting her house, and when she turned around, she saw Jim taking pictures of her with a long-lensed camera. Jim was known to sit in his car and either read the newspaper or just stare into space. There was a neighbor who said that Jim would stand in the backyard and just stare out into space. And one time, Jim was spotted driving down the road with a mannequin in the car, and the mannequin was wearing a hat. Honestly, that just sounds like a good sense of humor. Who knows why he had the mannequin? JoAnn confided to friends that she could never move because Jim had so much stuff. He was a hoarder, and their house was getting more and more full of junk. So their son James had gotten a bachelor's degree in education just like his parents, and in 1982 he was just about to get a master's degree in computer science when he died. James Nichols was only 25 when he fell off an amphibious vehicle and drowned. He probably bumped his head and was knocked out. In response, Jim sold the land in Mississippi. He had been hanging on to the land for his son, so when his son died, Jim sold the land, but he kept the amphibious vehicle parked in their backyard in Poughkeepsie, which served as a sick reminder to his wife about her son's death. In 1985, the couple's pet cat died. Sometime later, JoAnn went to the freezer to get meat for cooking and discovered the cat's dead body. The night before JoAnn disappeared, she and Jim ate dinner at the Ground Round Grill and Bar with some friends. Nancy was age 55 and definitely looking forward to retirement. Jim had already retired from IBM. The next morning, she failed to show up for her Saturday hair appointment. This is when Jim reported her missing. On December 21st, 1985, Jim made two 911 calls. The first call was at 7:48 a.m. The actual police report reads, "Jim just received a call from his wife. He doesn't know where she called from. She sounded okay to him. She told him that she found peace in God and she has a new name now. She also told him that the two diamond rings, which she has always worn, were in his jewelry box where he kept his cufflinks. He said he heard music in the background." In response, the police visited the Nichols home to interview Jim. They noted that Joanne's car was not in the driveway, which, yes, was to be expected since Joanne was missing. However, the second call says Joanne left the residence about 9 a.m. today in a 1977 Red Hornet. She left a suicidal note and is possibly going to do harm to herself. In response to this phone call, police went to the Nichols house again. This time, they found that Joanne's car was in the driveway. Jim told the police that he found the car at a mall and had it driven home. When the police looked inside the car, they found it had been washed and vacuumed. During the interview, the police did not search the home because they said they had no legal grounds to search. However, there was so much stuff piled up inside the home, it would have been nearly impossible to find anything that was intentionally hidden. When police asked Jim about their marriage, Jim said their marriage was fine. He said his wife, Joanne, was depressed and probably suicidal. Around a week later, Jim chatted with a Poughkeepsie reporter while sipping tea. Jim told the reporter that Joanne had called him on Christmas Eve to say she was okay and to say hello to their two golden retrievers. Jim said, "I asked her, 'Where are you?' and she hung up. There's no reason to assume she's dead or alive, joined a group, or run off with some other man. There are 1,000 possibilities. The pain is not knowing." Jim said he had found Joanne's car at the 9 Mall shopping center on South Road. So all this time that she was gone, and then weeks later she would call him on Christmas Eve. If she wasn't spending any of her own money from credit cards or bank accounts, then what was she supposed to be living on? Within weeks, Jim was visiting a new woman. When the police confronted Jim, he told them, "If you don't have a warrant for my arrest, you can talk to my lawyer." Joanne was so religious that when she disappeared, some of the neighbors thought she actually joined a convent. But a lot of neighbors actually said that they suspected that Jim had something to do with Joanne's disappearance. Retired Poughkeepsie detective Captain Charles Middlestadt worked on this case, and he said that for years after Joanne went missing, every time he drove by this house, he wondered if Joanne was inside somewhere. After 1985, police records were quiet for 2 years. Then, on the morning of July 14, 1987, Jim called police to report someone spray-painted paint remover on his car fender. About 12 hours later, that evening, Jim called police again to say his house windows and a car window had been shot out. 20 years later, Jim called 911 and hung up. When the police followed up with Jim, he said it was just an accident. But now, knowing that he killed his wife and hid her body inside a wall, I wonder if maybe he wanted to confess. So let's back up for a minute and talk about Jim when he was a little boy. He had a girlfriend, and when they played musical chairs, he would pull the chair out from under her. She would hit the floor and get hurt. Oddly, Jim only treated his girlfriend this way, and when other kids were running around playing cops and robbers, Jim would rather play by himself with an electric train set. As a teen, he became obsessed with cars and would polish them relentlessly. And also as a boy,
Jim loved cats.
One childhood playmate said of Jim, "He was strange and extremely bright. You were not sure if it was intelligence or craziness." On December 27, 2012, a neighbor called police to request a welfare check on Jim. Police found Jim dead of natural causes, surrounded by his hoard of piled books, cameras, and computers. He was 82. A cleaning crew was brought in to clean up the mess and help get the house ready to sell. They soon found Jim's 2 dogs dead in the freezer.
So as the cleaning crew went further into the house and they got down into the basement, they found what they described as a wall that sounded like it was hollow. So they looked into it more and they found out that it was actually a wall with a lot of stuff behind it. There was a lot of stuff crammed in there. And this cleaning crew had the job of getting everything out of the house so they could sell it.
The basement soon became a crime scene when, behind the wall, they found a barrel-shaped container with a black garbage bag inside that was bound with rope. It was a bag of bones. The coroner identified Joanne's remains through dental records and discovered Joanne's cause of death was blunt force trauma to the head.
Some questions I have about this case are, I wish I could see the blunt force trauma pictures or have a professional tell me. Does it look more like she died from being hit with a hammer or the butt of a pistol or from somebody's fists? Also, Joanne called Jim, he says. So did they look at the phone records and try to check on that phone call and see what number he called from, that she called from? Alright, let's do a quick recap. So Joanne and Jim Nichols were married, they had a son, and years later, apparently Jim killed his wife and then hid her body behind a wall in the basement. And he's this kind of guy who doesn't have emotions. He's probably a psychopath, whereas Joanne is just this amazing, lovable, loving first grade teacher. Do you think that she died at the house, or did she maybe die in the car at the mall after maybe she really did leave in the beginning and she called him, and then maybe later they decided to meet up and he went to the mall and he met her at the mall? But you know what? I don't think that's true, because in that phone call he told the police that she had left that morning, and all of a sudden already she's got a new name. She's found peace in God. I mean, she left just this morning and it's been just a few hours, and he later finds her car at the nearby mall. So she didn't go far. Alright, that's all I've got. Please leave your comments below. Let me know what you think. Where do you think she died? And what do you think the motive was? Do you think that she was trying to get him to throw away all of his hoarding stuff so that they could move? Because she was about to retire. Maybe she wanted to retire and sell her house and move somewhere else. And she was thinking, like she told some friends, she could never move because he has so much stuff. Maybe when he realized she was trying to get him to throw everything out, maybe he just lost it and killed her. And what about the son? Did he tell that son, the whole life of that son, that someday you're going to get this property? And then maybe he decided he wanted to sell that land and he didn't want to disappoint his kid. And as crazy as that sounds to us, there are people out there who will murder their family so that they don't disappoint people in their family.